Welcome back to Left Coast Crime 2025, recorded live at the Outliers Writing University studios here at the beautiful Westin Hotel. And our special guest is the one of many. We were talking about it before the show, not the one and only, but to me, he is the one and only Jeff Ayers. And we'll dive into his exciting world of pulse-pounding thrillers, deep research, and the mind of an author who truly knows how to keep readers on the edge of their seats. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you. Boy, I need to make a copy of that intro.
Well, the one thing that I just could not wrap my head around is how many different things you do. So give us a little resume of what you do now.
So first, I'm a book reviewer. I review for Library Journal, First Clue, and Criminal Element. Always been a reader. In fact, I was a librarian, but I'm now retired because I'm now writing full-time. And also, I'm a writer. I'm writing nonfiction under my own name. As A.J. Landau, I'm co-authoring a National Park thriller series. The first two are with Jon Land, and the third one, which we just signed a contract for, is with actor-writer Jon Lindstrom, who just got a deal for his Hollywood Hustle book for Hollywood just yesterday. And then, so in addition to that, I also am half of J.B. Abbott, which is a co-author project with my friend Brian Tracy. And that is a cozy mystery about jigsaw puzzles, and that comes out in August.
So how do you...
Oh, and I've also got that nonfiction book, as I mentioned. Yeah.
How do you keep this straight? Everything straight?
One of the things I'm very good at, being a former librarian, we have to be organized.
Yes.
So I keep a nice calendar with, deadlines of what needs to be done. And I outline pretty much everything. So like, okay, today I have to get this done, this done, this done. And there's a set pattern of my day. I get up at 5 a.m. with my wife. We go on a walk for about 45 minutes, and then she goes to her work, and then I go upstairs into my office and there from about 7 a.m. till 4.
So is your degree library science?
Yeah.
From?
University of Washington. And then I also got a history degree there, too.
What was the attraction of library science?
Ever since I was a kid, I loved books, surrounded by books, absolutely just devoured anything I could. And when I discovered libraries, it's like, hey, this is heaven. So in fourth grade, I wrote my first novel. And
in fourth grade,
it was called Airplane Smash Up in a Gun. And I realized I wanted to write, but I didn't know the process of how to make that happen, to get published or anything like that. So instead I said, I want to be surrounded by books. Libraries is the way to go. So that's what I did.
Is your first novel still in?
Oh, no. No. I'll let you in a secret. When you write a book in the fourth grade, you don't make you the hero and the girl you have a crush on your girlfriend in the book. Trust me. Whatever happened to her? I had no idea. True. I met my wife when she was in junior high, and we will be married 36 years in June.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
This has nothing to do with the crap. What's the secret to a happy marriage?
Communication and respect.
I think that's common. Yep. Patience.
Yeah.
There are days, it's kind of like writing. There are days when you love it and there are days when you hate it, but you don't ever give up on it. Right?
Oh, yeah. She's amazing, and I love her more every day, honestly.
So when did you decide to write full-time? Well, not full-time.
Well, yeah.
So full-time.
When I was working for the library system, I loved my job and everything was going great. And then my boss retired and a new person came in and promptly fired the entire staff. And so I went overnight from a library acquisitions person to a clerk. And I was just devastated. And my wife said, "You've always wanted to write. Now's the time to do it." So I started doing some research, found there was a writers conference near me, which was Pacific Northwest Writers Association. They have an annual conference. And I had an idea for a nonfiction book and wrote up a proposal, read a book on how to write a proposal, wrote a proposal, went to that conference, got a nonfiction agent, and sold that book to Simon & Schuster. And been going ever since.
Well, and you evolved from the Dewey Decimal System to computer. So you've been doing it long enough so that it was before back when we used to go to the card catalog, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, one of my first jobs was putting stuff into the card catalog format. And for a while, I actually knew if you tell me a subject, I could tell you what the decimal number was. Yeah. Some of my colleagues called me Spock for that reason. But of course, my first book was Star Trek, so go figure.
So how did you decide what genre you wanted to write in?
I've always loved the mystery thrillers, and they were some of my favorite films as well as books. And science fiction was the other. In fact, Ray Bradbury was sort of my idol. Anything he wrote was just pure genius in my mind. But I always knew I wanted to tell stories that were set in the mystery thriller world. Action, trying to solve a murder, things like that. Just that was what I enjoyed doing. And when I was growing up, the shows like Murder, She Wrote and things like that, I was always watching them and seeing if I could figure them out before she could.
And how in the world were you able to perfect the craft of writing after being a reader for so many years?
One of the things I think that helped me a ton is because I'm a book reviewer, I break down the book when I'm writing a review, and the goal of the review is always, I want you to read this book because I love this book. And so, in essence, in 200 words or less, I have to break down the story, give you an idea of what it's about, enough to intrigue you, but also tell you why you should go out and read it. And it's something that, as a result, I realized a lot of folks told me, you're doing book jackets for your summaries. And so, it's basically breaking down the books. And by doing that, I realized I was learning story structure and character development and all those other things. And so as I'm reviewing, I realized, wait a minute, this is how you do it. And then, of course, Stephen King's On Writing, which everybody talks about.
One of the best books, I think it is everybody's Bible. We all have a tattered copy somewhere.
Exactly, yes.
Not all reviewers focus on the positive. Why do you focus on the positive?
I don't think it's worth a reader's time to read a negative review because I'm telling you, don't go read it. But also, I think it's not a good thing for the writer who wrote the book for me to say, I didn't like your book and here's why. I prefer to stay positive, and I prefer to make book recommendations.
Have you been in a critique group along the way?
Yes. In fact, I'm in one currently with two people who are here at this conference as well, and they talked me into coming.
What are the rules of engagement for a good critique group?
Leave your egos at the door. That's the first one. And it's always about the writing. It's never about the writer. So it's always about making the writing the best it can be.
Is there a way that you can give feedback that's inspiring and not deflating?
Yes. And I'll give a good example. There was one of the authors in my group wrote this chapter that was so amazing in my mind that I said, I wish I could write like you, because there's no way I could even begin to write like he could.
Let's talk a little bit about Leave No Trace. What was the germination of that story?
So I'm a huge national parks buff, and I love reading mysteries set in national parks. But one thing I noticed was there was a missing element. And one of the things I always think about my writing is I want to write what I feel like I want to read. And for Leave No Trace, it was about a story that encompassed multiple national parks, not just one. So it wasn't, I'm going to go to Yellowstone and, oh, there's a dead body. Now I have to figure out who killed this person. No, I wanted to have something that was so destructive that it was set in several national parks.
That sounds like a series for sure. You could probably go from place to place if you wanted to.
Well, and when I discovered that there is something called the Investigative Services Branch of the National Park Service, which is the FBI of the Park Service, I realized I have a hero who can visit any one of the over 430 locations they oversee. And I'm like, okay, that's great. So, and with my library background, the research is key. So it was about talking to the rangers at the various places and getting all the inside details. It was about actually going out and being a ranger for a day at Mount Rainier. I actually got to shadow an ISB agent for a day. And I learned so much from them. And it was all about trying to be as authentic and accurate as possible while also telling a story that is not.
What's the best writing advice you've ever got?
Well, that's a good one. Stay true to yourself and be patient.
What does be patient mean?
This world is brutal when it comes to publishing. You see a lot of folks who, they try to get an agent and they send out all these query letters and they get rejected 60 times. Then they finally get an agent and like, okay, now their book's going to get shopped, and then it goes out to all the publishers and they get rejections. And it's all about finding the right place at the right time to get an agent. And it's also the right place at the right time to get an editor and an acquiring house. This book was initially garbage. I'll be honest.
All books are initially garbage.
Yeah. I had 2 drafts done and I thought this is great. And I gave it to beta readers and they all said the same thing. They were bored out of their mind. So I went to Jon Land and I said, could you give me some advice on this? And he said, you need to blow up the Statue of Liberty on page 1. And I said, there is no Statue of Liberty in the book. And he said, exactly. So he and I ended up writing this book together in the next one.
It's not a spoiler if it's page 1. What did you blow up?
The Statue of Liberty. But again, because I wanted multiple parks, it also set in Zion, Gateway Arch, Wind Cave, Mount Rainier, and I'm actually missing Independence Hall.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun doing the research with all those places, talking to the rangers who work there, and then saying, hey, does this work?
Did you actually go to all these locations?
I've been to all those locations. And if I wasn't able to go to those locations, then I actually went online and found the communications officer for that location, contacted them and talked to them. And then I also worked with the National Park Conservation Association. And they were fantastic. They opened up a lot of doors for us. And it's like I said, it's all about being correct. And the next book, which is coming out in April, is called Cold Burn. And it's set in Alaska's Glacier Bay National Park and also the Everglades in Florida.
That's 2 sides of the coin.
And the fun thing about the research for that was in Alaska, it's isolated and really hard to get to. And I calculated me flying up there for a weekend by myself. And then I calculated a week's cruise through that area. And it was cheaper to take my wife on the cruise.
There you go.
So
that's a takeaway for you listeners out there. This is how to get that cruise you want.
Yeah. So my wife's like, I like your research.
Jeff Ayers is our guest. His book is Jeff, AYDRS, books.com, JeffAyersBooks.com. How do you plan your day when you're doing so many different things?
As I mentioned, I outline everything, have a calendar, and just follow the calendar.
You do what it tells you to do.
Yes, exactly.
Just slip from one thing into another. That's great. Favorite Ray Bradbury story?
Oh, my goodness. I have to say, well, my favorite book of his is The Martian Chronicles. That one, just the way he describes Mars and all the various stories he told in that. But there's a short story that, and I cannot remember the name of it, and I'm apologizing, but it's about a young girl in a school on Venus. And because Venus, it might be called There Comes Soft Rains. It might be. The sun rarely shows because of all the thick cloud layer. And it's about bullies taking her and sticking her in a closet right when the sun comes out. And so she misses it. And just the way he tells that story is just so heartbreaking and beautiful and vivid. Again, he's a guy I would love to be able to write like, but I never will.
Have you ever met him?
No, but fun story. I always have fun stories with these. So I was in line at Comic-Con in San Diego to meet him. And the line was huge. I mean, huge. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just stand here and wait. And after about a half hour, he had to leave. And so I didn't get to see him, and I was really disappointed. And the person I was standing next to said, here, I have an email address for you. Email this address. Just send an email here. and it was his assistant. And so I was actually able to write a letter, and he read it and he replied back. So I actually have a handwritten letter from Ray Bradbury.
What did he say?
He said that he was thankful that I got into libraries and writing because of him, and he was thrilled that I was his that he was my inspiration.
And now the circle is complete, and you're inspiring others to write.
I would like to think so.
It's definitely true. Jeff Ayers is our guest here in the Outliers Writing University studios at Left Coast Crime 2025. Thanks so much for the conversation.
Oh, it's been fun. Thank you for the opportunity.